Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. My name is Gail Snyder. I'm the Executive Director for Dementia Friendly Fort Worth, and we are proud to offer this program with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and United Way of Tarrant County. This is a recorded program and is made available through YouTube for future use by families and communities. And if you do not wish to be included in the recording, you may keep your video off and you may also mute your mic. And today we are doing cookie conversations and I am your host.
Yay.
Recipe today is Sable Cookies, or better known as French butter cookies. So we all have Patrick to thank for our cookie inspiration today, because I decided to look around. I love butter cookies, and so I decided to try something I've never done before. So whenever we finish these and you receive your cookies, then you'll have to give feedback to let me know if this is a keeper or if I need to look for a new recipe.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
in preparing for this recipe, it has some very interesting instructions. The recipe that I found comes from the Complete America's Test Kitchen Cookbook, which is a huge book. And the chocolate chip recipe that we used was out of this book as well. And so they've tested things to find out what the best way to get the best cookie is. And so in this recipe, they actually have you boil the egg, and we're going to use the egg yolk as the first part of our recipe. So the first instructions, you have the recipe there, you can see, and I'll send this out to everyone by email. And so now I'm going to stop the screen share so that you can get a better view of what we're doing over here. So the recipe says, place an egg in a small saucepan and cover with water by 1 inch and bring it to a boil over high heat. Remove the pan from the heat, cover and let it sit for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, fill a small bowl with ice water using a slotted spoon and transfer the egg to the ice water and let it stand for 5 minutes. And so that's what I've already done. I have my egg. I had it in this cool ice water, and it's already done. It's 5 minutes, so it's cooled off and ready for the next step, which is then to peel the shell from the egg and separate the egg yolk from the egg, or the egg yolk from the white. So I did that so that we would have time to get everything done. Now, Paulette, is this a recipe that you've ever done before?
No,
No?
no, I used to cook everything. I made everything from scratch and all that kind of good stuff. I made all my bread because I wanted the kids to grow up healthy and I didn't want to fill them full of chemicals.
Right.
So I made everything from scratch. Now I think cook is a 4-letter word, so what can I say?
I think that's starting to change a little bit. I think people are starting to cook a little more. Okay, so now I've peeled the egg and I have just the egg yolk left. And so then it tells us to press the egg yolk through a fine mesh strainer into a small bowl. So I hope this works out well. I've never had to do this for a recipe before. And I think that's probably just to help get it smooth. But it's mostly sticking inside the strainer. Can y'all see okay, or do I need to turn my camera down a
Turn
little?
down just a little. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you
Yeah.
can you
Okay.
make it big?
Can I make, you can
That's
change your view so that the only person you're seeing is me.
Oh, okay.
Make it,
Yeah.
put it on
Go to-
speaker view, and then the picture will be pretty much full screen. I'm going to try to bring this closer to the camera so y'all can see what this looks like as soon as I finish it. I read a review that somebody wrote that has tested out some of these recipes, and they opted to just crumble the egg to save time, and they said it didn't change the outcome. But if you can see this,
Mhm.
it kind of looks a little bit like tiny shredded cheese. So it's real fine, which is much different than it would have been if I had crumbled it by hand. Okay, so we're finished with that step. So now it says in the stand mixer to beat the butter, the sugar, the salt, and the cooked egg yolk on medium speed until light and fluffy. So I've already softened my butter. I'm going to add that to the mixer. I have this handy little sink over here. I don't know if you all can see it. See my little sink over here? That's where I get to put all my stuff until I take it over to the sink.
That's good.
All right, so now we need 1/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. Okay, there's our sugar.
Sweet.
And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I used unsalted butter, which helps not add extra salt to the recipe. Okay, now I'm going to add the egg. And then we're going to combine that together. And it says to do that for about 4 minutes. So it looks very light. Let me bring the camera over there a little closer so you can see what it's doing. See how light and fluffy it looks? Okay, so then it says our next step is to decrease the speed and add the vanilla. And it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. Once that's incorporated, I'm I'm going to take a minute and scrape the sides so that the vanilla gets in all of it. Okay, now it says for us to stop the mixer and add the flour and mix it on low speed just until combined. And it calls for 1.5 cups of unbleached flour. Everybody's awfully quiet today.
We're just watching the master.
Just watching the master. All right, so now we've got our flour, and we're going to mix this in on low speed. And I'm kind of surprised it didn't tell us to sift the flour. Okay, I got to back up here just a minute. Let's see. It hasn't told me where to use my egg white yet, and I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, okay. So we don't use the egg white until we get ready to bake them. Okay. So we've mixed the flour until it's combined, and then it says using a rubber spatula, press the dough into a cohesive mass. So this looks delicious. And what do you think it smells like?
Vanilla.
Vanilla,
Vanilla. What else?
sugar and butter.
The butter is very prominent. That's what I mostly smell. And this is where, if you all weren't watching, I would be tasting it.
Mm. You can taste it.
Go ahead,
Look.
we'll cover our eyes. Go ahead.
Licking the paddle.
Lick the paddle.
Lick the paddle.
That's a fun part, you know,
Yep.
Yeah,
to do that. That's what kids always love to do.
I know.
I agree. I do.
But yeah, since I'm in my second childhood, hey, yeah, go for it.
It is very good. Take my word for it. It's very good. Okay, so now I have it all together, and it says to divide the dough in half and roll each piece about 6 inches long. And you move some things out of the way. So I have a little bit more room to work here. Okay, so now I'm going to divide this dough into 2 sections. And last time when we did this, when we did our chocolate chip cookies, I told you all that I baked some the day before. I haven't done that. This is the very first time I've ever used this recipe.
First time for everything.
First time for everything. But I'm excited to get to try something new. All right. So I'm going to set the extra one aside and we're going to concentrate on just one of these. Okay, so it wants us to divide it into half and then to roll it into a log about 6 inches long and about 1.25 inches in diameter. And we might have a bit of a complication here because the dough is very soft. So it may be hard for us to get it sliced until I chill it. Can you all see that?
Yep.
All right. So I already have my oven turned on to 350, and I'm going to see if we're going to be able to slice this or if I'm going to have to put it in the freezer. Now, the other thing that it says to do is use a chef's knife to slice the dough 1/4 inch thick and rotating the roll so that it doesn't get flat on the side. So we're going to try this because we want to be able to see what it's going to look like before we end. So because it's not stiff, they're not coming out really round. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to bake just a few just so we can see what it's going to be like.
Your stomach can't tell if they're round or not.
That's true. But as someone who likes to cook fancy things, it's all about the presentation.
That's true.
Make them all different designs and shapes.
Can do that too. But this dough, because it's very soft and light, which is how we want it, it's very hard to cut when it's not chilled. So I'm going to try a trick that my grandmother always used when she made homemade cinnamon rolls. She always used a piece of thread.
Mm-hmm.
You all seem to be familiar with that tactic.
Yes.
So I'm going to use
Yeah.
thread.
That works better.
Worked much better.
Absolutely.
So I need to send them a tip on their recipe.
Yes.
Yeah, and the good news is you don't have to wash it when you're through.
That's right. This is so light. Using the thread to cut it, it's almost like cutting butter. I'm going to turn it like it says so we don't get flat on one side. And if I had done the proper homework, I would have had the dough chilled in the refrigerator. But I'm still exhausted from that working vacation I had last week.
What did you do on your vacation?
we are doing some remodeling in
Okay.
our house. And so I painted and I caulked.
Cock. Oh, yeah. Done that a few times.
We worked from 7:15 or 7:30 till 3 to 5 in the afternoon every day. Okay. I have 5 cookies on here. Good morning, Janine. I just saw you joined us.
Good morning.
Go ahead and pop these in the oven so they'll have time to finish so you can see what they look like at the end. But there's just a couple of other instructions we have to go through first. And that is, let's see, gently brush the cookies with the egg white mixture and sprinkle it evenly with the turbinado sugar. Do you all know what that is?
No.
It's actually like the raw sugar or the sugar that's a little more coarse.
Oh, okay. All right.
I happen to have some of that. This might be more fine than what they used, but I think this will work. So it tells us to use the egg white and put a teaspoon of water with it, and then we're going to brush the cookies with that. So add a teaspoon of water to the egg yolk. And then I'm going to beat that. Now, can you all see that?
Ma'am?
And then I'm going to brush these with the egg whites. And I think that's to help it get a golden color and also to help the sugar stay on there. And then I'm going to sprinkle it with the turbinado sugar. And then it says that we're going to bake these. It says 15 minutes, and I can't imagine that they're going to bake for 15 minutes. So I'm going to take this over to the oven. I set it for 10 minutes, but we will probably check it before that. So I'm going to go back to the picture that I showed you earlier. Can you all see that? So we're attempting to do this round one that you can see the sugar on. But in the recipe, it has an alternate version where you can make the dough become chocolate by decreasing the flour and adding cocoa powder to make this one that has the swirl and to make the one that is chocolate on the far left. And then on the very far right, you see the one that is shaped like a pretzel. So if my dough were chilled, we could attempt to make the pretzel version, which I will try when I finish up the other dough.
I think attempt might be the appropriate word there. Attempt to make a pretzel shake. It would be for me anyway.
Well, I have made homemade Aunt Annie's pretzels from the mall.
Oh, wow.
Stuff. I've made those a couple of times. In fact, my family, we hadn't done it in a while, and they requested that I do that. So we made those just a couple weeks ago. And it's interesting. Have any of you ever tried making homemade pretzels?
No.
No.
No, Paulette, not you either?
No.
No,
I made a lot of homemade things, but not a pretzel.
because after you get the dough finished and shaped into the pretzel shape, you dip it in baking soda water. And that's what gives it that interesting texture. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the rest of this dough up and stick it in the refrigerator so that it can chill, so that I can get these to come out in more uniform circles. So do y'all have any questions about the recipe?
Sounds good.
In just a few minutes, we'll take a peek at how they're doing in the oven.
And it's calorie free. I heard.
Calorie free, that's what we say.
That's why you have to break the cookie first, so before you eat it, so all the calories fall out.
Oh,
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Oh, I love it.
well, that's almost as good as what Steve had to say about ice cream. If you eat it out of the carton, it doesn't have any calories.
Ah, there you go.
That's why you take Oreo cookies apart, break them apart,
do that.
so all the calories go away. Those little L's are sneaky.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so I have both of these rolled, and I'm gonna go stick them in the refrigerator to chill.
Okay, y'all are making me want cookies and ice cream for breakfast. That's not a good thing.
Oh, but it's
Oh, yeah.
lunchtime now. You can have them.
Yeah, but see, if you eat them early, then you got the whole day to work it off. If you eat it late at night, doesn't work so well. So eat your high calorie stuff early in the morning, and then you can work it off during the day.
During the day.
If all goes well, you should be able to enjoy a sampling of the cookies by Saturday or Monday.
Okay.
And if you've not been with us before, I'll email you so that you can send me your address so that you can get your sample of the cookies in the mail.
Okay, that
I'll
sounds.
be baking the rest of those off after we finish up our time so that I can get your packages ready to go in the mail today.
Yay.
Today's Thursday. Hopefully you'll get those on Saturday, maybe Monday. But I'm going to turn my camera around and we're going to take a peek at what's going on in the oven.
I hope they're behaving.
Well, they're not done. I will tell you that. I'm going to take the camera off of the computer and see if I can show you in the oven. Ready to spread out, but they're not brown. So it really may take the 15 minutes that they suggested. All right, let's close this oven so they can finish. All right. So Paulette and Janine, I don't think either of you have been with us for one of our cooking presentations before. What was your favorite thing to bake?
Oh, bread.
Bread?
Bread. I used to, when the kids were little and newborn, and I wanted them to have only nutritionally perfect food, I baked all my bread.
And did you make basic white bread or did you do other variations?
I did other variations, and it was so funny because the little kid who lived across the street was captivated by the fact that I baked bread. And he would come over and knock on the door and say, Mrs. Cooper, can I have some of that good for you bread? It's good for you because it was all stone ground, because if when you ground up the flour and it got too hot, it destroyed all the nutritional value. So I would always have it, stone ground, because that way it wouldn't get hot. So I had fresh stone ground wheat flour, and I made the loaves of bread out of that, and he loved it.
Wow. That's wonderful. Janine, what about you?
I don't have a favorite thing to cook. Although I learned to like cooking a little bit when I was eating vegetarian a few years, 20, 25 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I learned to cook without following a recipe because you had to do so many substitutions and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed making up new creations and things like that. But I'm not a cook. I never have really enjoyed cooking. I do most of my cooking by sticking everything in a crock pot and turning it on. That's it.
I used to love to cook. I used to love it. And then, I don't know, I just kind of, the kids moved away. They got married, went off to college and all that. And
it's too much work for just two people. Sometimes it feels
yeah.
like. So, well, I like to bake and try new recipes more than I like to cook gourmet or different meals, because my husband especially is pretty much, he likes certain things and he doesn't like to try a lot of new recipes.
I know that feeling. Been there, done that.
All right, I'm going to take another peek at the cookies real quick. So they've been in there 9 minutes. They are still a very pale color. It is going to take the full 15 minutes, which is quite a surprise for me. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Did you think it would take the full?
You can take a blowtorch and make them crispy.
Yeah, but that's going to affect the flavor.
Probably, yeah.
So, yeah.
But they are spreading out a little bit more, and they'll start to get a little more golden brown by the time the 6 minutes is up. So I updated the timer on the oven to go ahead and let them go the full 15 minutes. But of course, I'll have to check them again at least one more time.
Don't you love that expression, golden brown?
Golden, yes.
Wait a minute here. Let's refresh.
There's so many variations to what golden brown is.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it.
Especially in cookies or a pie crust.
Oh, yeah.
In a pie crust, who likes their pie crust really, really done? Yeah. Anybody like it really done?
No.
Nope.
You like it golden, but not burned.
Right.
Golden.
Yep.
At Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's really hard to bake a pumpkin pie and have golden crust and not burned crust.
But it still tastes good.
That's what bakery
It tastes good, but usually the edge crust, you don't take precautions, the edge crust will be so brown that it falls apart and you don't really get to eat it. Right. So you almost always have to cover the edge of the pie with either foil or one of those aluminum pie crust covers that they make now, if you don't want the pie crust on the pumpkin pie especially to be burned, because they have to cook so long.
Yeah.
I don't eat the pie crust anyway. I just eat the pumpkin out of the middle. I just as soon have pumpkin pudding.
Right.
That's the only reason you eat pie is for the crust.
Well, depends on what kind of crust, if it's good crust.
True. I
But
loved the crust in my grandmother's peach cobbler. That was good.
That's something we could do, which would also be maybe similar to this, is to make a pie crust. Of course, I could make pie crust and send you pie crust, and then you could get your own berries and have pie crust and berries.
There you go.
Of course, if we had a long time, Patrick could demonstrate his Dutch oven, but you know,
that takes
Yes.
about an hour though.
it takes a few hours, long time there. Yes.
Can you do it in a whole hour, or would you have to show us what to do, but already have one made?
Oh, you could do it in an hour. It takes about an hour to cook, and that takes about 5 minutes to put it all together.
Takes about 5 minutes to get everything in there, and then it has to cook about an hour.
Yep.
Well,
What is
Do that.
it y'all are talking about?
Talking about Dutch oven cooking with the Dutch oven with the 3 legs, and you use charcoal on the top and the bottom. So
Patrick's part of a group that gets together under normal circumstances for Dutch oven gatherings, and everybody makes something in their Dutch oven, and then they sample everybody's creations.
Cool.
So, okay, I'm going to check on the cookies again. They have about 1 minute and 30 seconds to go, and they are starting to turn golden brown on the edges. So
I don't know if I told you, the last Dutch oven gathering, we call them dogs, that I went to was probably a year ago, before all of this stuff really started happening. And they always count how many, they call them pots, how many pots they had out on the tables for everybody to sample. And it was
Right.
like 65 and 70. And some people do 2. They'll do 2 things.
wow.
And you know, they've got one table of the entrees and one table of the desserts. And some people go through with muffin pans, and they'll, instead of a plate, and they'll fill their muffin pan
Oh,
with.
that's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea. I would love to try a Dutch oven peach cobbler.
Oh yeah, it tastes a whole lot different.
Well, what we could do with Patrick is have him start one, get it rolling, and then a little bit later on, kind of show us a little bit what you do to get it going as it gets closer to
Right.
the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so we would only have to be on for a little while, you know, together.
Right.
That might be something to do.
We could do that. So Patrick, think about that. If you want to do, we have another Thursday opening
Okay.
before the end of the month or in August.
Okay.
I think the cookies are done.
Oh no, they're
I was
burned.
trying
Oh,
to figure out what that beeper was. I was like, I didn't put anything in the oven.
What's that, Mr.
Okay, can you all see?
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't think they're quite as golden brown as we might want them to be. Let me adjust the camera so you can see the top of it.
they're not bad.
Uh,
No.
They're not golden enough, are they?
But the bottoms are getting burnt.
Not close.
Let me pick one up with the spatula and see what it looks like on the bottom. And sorry for my camera moving around so much. Well, they're perfect on the bottom. I'm going to flip this one over so you can see.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd want it anymore. Because
So-
otherwise they get pretty dark on the bottom.
Maybe I didn't get enough egg white on it.
No, I don't know.
Make it golden.
Anyway, they still look good.
But they look good.
Oh, they do look good. I'm getting hungry.
Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, just real quickly before we end, if this will cool off enough. It has a very light texture. Can you see that? Everybody have a bite.
Thank you.
It looks like they turned out well. So I hope you all have enjoyed our cookie demonstration on
Oh, very much.
French butter cookies. And I will be emailing the recipe to you. And I will also be sending out your box of cookies later this afternoon if all goes well.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you
You're
very
very
much.
welcome.
Thank
Great day,
you.
great day. Thank you.
Let me
Thank you.
share with you real quickly our tomorrow is cello and piano.
Ooh, that sounds
Twins.
good.
Yeah.
So I hope you all will join us tomorrow at 10:30 for the presentation from Texas Winds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. Y'all have a wonderful day.
All right.
Thank you.
too.
You
All
too.
right,
Celebrate.
bye-bye.
Bye.